Houston's original neighborhood downtown is for everyone, and right now is the perfect time to check out their Market Square Park Farmers Market. Every Saturday until November 16th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., the Farmers Market is putting a spotlight on local growers and makers who are providing access to seasonally fresh and affordable fruits and vegetables, plus meat proteins and prepared foods, as well as other household goods. There's also live music from local artists and other entertainment, and it's free. You can learn more at downtownhouston.org. Downtown Houston, get energized and revived. Find your fall vibes in Pearland with a full calendar of autumn events. Hike through history from Valentin's Brewing Company to the Old Settler Cemetery on October 25th. And on October 26th, you can kickstart your holiday shopping at the Pearland Boutique Shop and Hop. And enjoy curated menus for a cause the entire month of November for Pearland Restaurant Weeks. Discover Pearland this season, where charm and hospitality meet unforgettable experiences. Get all the details on these events and more at visitpearland.com/to-do. Today on CityCast Houston. Things are getting tense at City Hall with Mayor John Whitmire accusing Controller Chris Hollins of ethics violations. Plus, is it just me or are political ads getting out of hand during family shows? And we dig into a sex trafficking ring bus with cartel connections that was 10 years in the making. Houston Landing's diverse communities reporter Danya Pérez joins me to talk about the stories to know to start the week. It's Tuesday, October 22nd. I'm Raheel Ramzanali, and here's what Houston's talking about. Hey, what's up, Danya? How are you?
Good morning, Raheel. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Early voting has kicked off, and a lot of people have been voting. I love seeing the stickers on my Instagram stories, right? People are posting it. It's nice to see everyone going out and voting right now.
It is very encouraging to see the excitement, to be honest, and it makes our job make more sense during this time of year.
It sure does. You know, the one downfall with early voting now underway is like these political ads seem to be at an all-time high. If you're watching TV, you know what I'm talking about. Literally every commercial break, there is a political ad, and it's so frustrating sometimes because this weekend I was watching football games with my kids, right? And I think football games are rated TVG, right? Like there shouldn't be anything on there that should make you turn it off or tell your kids like, hey, close your ears or eyes, right? Until you get to the commercial breaks, and these political ads are mentioning topics like rape or fear mongering on all kinds of issues. And it's just not suitable for young kids. So I wanted to start with that because this has always been something that bugged me. Like, why are we putting these commercials on during TV programs that shouldn't have these kind of topics in them?
I totally agree. I love a grind my gears moment because I was actually thinking of that over the weekend. And even, to be honest, even in, apps like YouTube, I was watching a Tiny Desk concert over the weekend, and it just seemed like, this ads just came out of nowhere with like the saddest messages and something totally out of the left field. So I'm with you on that.
It's so crazy. And it's always bugged me, right? When you watch TV and you tune in for something that should be family friendly, and then all of a sudden during commercial break, you're hit with a Viagra ad, right? Like about erectile dysfunction. And you're just like, oh, this is so uncomfortable. How does the FCC allow this?
It is. It absolutely is. It makes you feel like nobody's reading the room when it comes to actually scheduling those ads.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see how that's frustrating for parents and confusing for kids.
Yeah, it is. Like you're just sitting there watching and all of a sudden you're hit with these like scary messaging. Like the way they package these commercials are pretty scary and they're fear mongering. And look, I'm all about talking about the election, the candidates, the issues, the civic side of it, why it's important to go vote and all that. But when you're sitting there with a 9-year-old and all of a sudden they're hit with these messages that they shouldn't really have to be worried about, it's very frustrating. And I hope something is done, but let's be honest, it probably won't be.
Right. And I'll take this as an opportunity as a journalist. Just remember, not everything in those ads is fact checked. So if you
Yeah.
have any questions, go online, search the issue, read a reputable source and learn about it.
I'm glad you brought that up. By the way, yeah, those commercials are not fact checked. TV stations have to just run those commercials. So yeah, there is that side of it as well. Just from the pure facts, that's scary.
Yeah, even the numbers, they'll
Hmm.
put like big numbers and big letters that seem important. It's like, that is not accurate. But
Yeah.
yeah, I agree.
Hey, speaking of some tense moments, it is getting tense right now with Mayor John Whitmire and Controller Chris Hollins after Mayor Whitmire came out and accused Hollins of engaging in quote unquote pay to play after his office solicited sponsorships for an annual investor conference. Now, according to a document on the city's website, sponsorship opportunities at the conference range from $10,000 to $100,000 with top donations giving sponsors access to a private dinner with Hollins and special guests. Proceeds will benefit the nonprofit Houston Forward Fund. So there is that when you think about these sponsorships, which, by the way, focuses on banking equity, internet connectivity, and election awareness. And what were your initial thoughts when you saw Mayor Whitmire come out accusing Controller Hollins?
I thought it was a little funny that the whole idea of announcing this at a press conference was, for the sake of transparency. There's a lot of ways to improve transparency, when it comes to, our county, city officials at every level. This felt a little bit less inclined for transparency, to be honest. I mean, there's many ways, including, the public information requests that we journalists continuously have to put on hold because, or not on our end, right? But like that they keep holding for many reasons that don't seem too transparent, to be honest.
Yeah, from the mayor's office, you're saying, like when y'all submit those requests, they're just on hold pretty much with the mayor's office.
Yeah, and to be honest, at every level of our governments, at the city, county level, state, I think Texas is not known for being super transparent when it
Yeah.
comes to that. So I just thought that made me giggle when I read that it was for the sake of transparency.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting because we were even writing about it at the Houston Landing, and just to be perfectly clear, right, the mayor's State of the City address was also supported by corporations. So
Yep.
when you compare, apples to apples, it might not make sense for the readers or for, the officials that are being involved in this.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because Hollins didn't hold back after the accusations were thrown out there because in a press conference, he said it was a big nothing burger and then headed to Twitter to show that the mayor's office was doing similar things, like you mentioned, seeking sponsorships for the State of the City address and other events like the Thanksgiving parade. And others have also pointed out that he was also accepting campaign contributions from the firefighters union before they entered into the contract negotiations that he eventually got done as mayor. So, like if you're going to be transparent, then you got to kind of point out your flaws as well. Like, hey, this is something we've done. Why is this happening? But then the accusations aren't as heavy, right? And then it really is a nothing burger.
Right, right. And the fact that this was actually addressed in a press conference instead of, addressing it first as city officials together and then coming up with something or figuring out what the issue was. A lot
Hmm.
of the times it just feels like, when it needs to be out in the public, it's not. And then when it doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
need to be put out in the public, it's immediately out there. So it's a little frustrating for the public, I'm guessing.
It's so frustrating. And we already know that Hollins has been one of the mayor's biggest critics since he took office, calling into the question his budget and the $1.5 billion deal with the Houston firefighters. And it really raises important questions about ethics at City Hall as well, and whether there is true pay to play here or not from both offices. And what is clear is that we keep getting scandals at City Hall, and there is a lot of tension. So it's something that we'll keep our eyes on for sure.
Agree. Yeah, that's something that I'm sure it's going to keep going. Keep giving us a story.
All right, Danya, what is your biggest story of the week?
Well, in the last few weeks, I had the pleasure of shadowing some canvassers that are out there right now as we speak, actually, probably knocking on doors, talking to people, getting them to get out there and vote. And I wrote a story that had to do with our Latino population, right? I mean, I went out there with a nonpartisan nonprofit organization called Mi Familia en Acción to just see what they did, right, on a day-to-day basis. In this case, it was ahead of early voting. We know that early voting is already underway here in Harris County and throughout the state, but it was really interesting to hear from the residents, right? A lot of them were just surprised that somebody was knocking at their door with information, plain and simple information about getting them to go civically engage. And, a lot of them were eligible registered voters already, although the people that they were knocking on their doors had, a history of voting already, but had never heard from anybody, not a candidate, not a nonpartisan organization like this one, not anybody that was giving them information. So they were a little taken aback at first, and then later were really open about, oh yeah, I mean, I'm happy to get this information. I'm happy to talk to you. What else can I do? So it's really interesting to me because in Harris County, as we know, about 32% of our eligible voter population were Latinos, and it's just been increasing over the years. I mean, and only 10 years ago, that number was 25% Latino eligible voters. So it's a population that is going to continue increasing. And it was just really interesting and to some level concerning to hear, obviously, that they're just not being,
Mhm.
heard or approached. There was polls that I wrote about in that story, a statewide poll that found that only a little bit over half of the people that participated in the poll had never heard from
Oh,
anybody.
wow.
And it was only about 14% of the participants who had actually gotten
Mhm.
somebody at their door or somebody approaching them with information about voting. So it is a trend statewide. It is a trend that we're going to see in cities like Houston, where we have a large number of Latino or other, minority populations voting, and it does bring the question, like, what are the efforts that we are doing to engage with people in other languages, in other communities to actually get out and vote in an informed way, right?
I'm glad you brought this story up because I am so engaged in making sure the South Asian community is out there voting and they know what's happening. And we rely on WhatsApp messages a lot to get the message out because there's so many different groups out there. One of the issues that we've run into is just a pure knowledge of, oh, early voting has started. What exactly is early voting? Where can you go? The locations. What were some of the big takeaways when you were following these canvassers with our Latino community? Like, what was the biggest issue they're facing?
To be honest, it's that issue of connectivity, right? Like feeling a little bit disconnected from the rest of the
Mm,
population when it comes to like information being issued. A lot of them have, mixed generation families. So, for example, I talked to one voter who like had like five people in their household registered to vote, including his kids. And none of them had heard from anybody. So it wasn't like a language barrier or anything like that. It was literally for them at least, it was a location issue. Um, but even so for him, I mean, it was important for him to be able to engage
yeah.
in, communication with somebody in Spanish. So there we will see with some of our older voters, a language barrier. And they were just so happy to hear that both the canvasser and myself
Mm,
could approach them and talk to them in Spanish. So that was really refreshing. Um, but it was a little bit concerning to hear that just overall, right? I mean, no outreach whatsoever had been done in those particular households. So, and also like not knowing exactly what's on the ballot. The canvassers were ready with information about, where to go get a sample ballot and just, go to the actual website and download it and let them know that there's going to be different languages and let them know they can print it out. The fact that they can't take phones inside when they're actually going to vote. So there are a lot of like some of the smaller, like everyday questions that are just not, if you don't get anybody at your door with information or in some way connecting with you with information, you just don't know it all, right?
yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
I saw my mom over the weekend and, she's a senior citizen and she was the one telling me like, "Hey, don't forget early voting starts." And that's when I knew like kind of like, okay, this is going to be a huge turnout for the South Asian community because she's getting so many messages from her friends, from communities on WhatsApp. Again, I keep going back to that. It's such a big part of like how people are learning and understanding what's happening. What do you think the turnout's going to be for the Latino community in Harris County and maybe even the greater Houston area?
I mean, I would love to see what you're talking about, right? I mean, a huge turnout. They are a lot of issues that obviously are at play here. The canvassers were actually asking them what were some of the issues of concern to them. A lot of the traditional issues that we are all worried about were coming up. Safety and security, health was the huge one. Obviously, the economy was at the very top. So I think I'm hoping that those issues actually bring a lot more people out to
Yeah.
vote. So I'm really, really hopeful that this year a lot of people will see more reasons to go out there and vote. I don't know if I want to predict the turnout because I don't want to be on the record with
You don't want to go on
that.
record, huh?
But yeah, I mean, to be honest, from what I heard and saw out there, I mean, people were telling us, yeah, like I always vote, I always try and go vote. I think it's a presidential
Yeah,
election, so I think people tend to be a little bit more connected to those. So you know, they
we'll
just
see.
need a reason and they named many reasons to be out
Mhm.
there. So I'm hopeful.
If you want to read Danya's entire story, I've linked it in our show notes. Hey Houston, looking for some design inspiration? Check out the 2024 AIA Houston Home Tour. On November 2nd and 3rd, you'll get a rare chance to step inside some of the city's most stunning custom homes, all crafted by some of Houston's top architects. Whether you're dreaming up your own perfect space or just love exploring amazing designs like I do, this tour is a must. Each home is a masterpiece showcasing the collaboration between homeowners, architects, and builders. And the best part? You can chat with the architects right there on site, so you can get tips, ask questions, and soak up all the creative vibes. Don't miss out on this unique experience. To learn more or grab your tickets, just head over to architecturehouston.org. Again, that's architecturehouston.org. So mark your calendars November 2nd and 3rd and come join us for the AIA Houston Home Tour. You won't want to miss it. The British International School of Houston is an international and diverse private school with top academic results in a state-of-the-art campus serving children from pre-K 3 to 12th grade. The British International School of Houston offers an outstanding private education with state-of-the-art facilities on a sprawling 32-acre campus unlike anywhere else. They recruit teachers who are global talents to inspire students' confidence, resilience, and creativity with an international-minded environment. Students build pathways to the world's best universities through excellent results and internationally recognized qualifications. Are you interested in learning more about the British International School of Houston? Search BIS Houston today and get in touch with their admissions team. You can also join their upcoming open house on October 30th by registering online. That's the British International School of Houston. All right, let's get to lightning round, Danya. And we've got 3 stories here. The first one is a wild and unfortunately tragic story which happened over the weekend when a helicopter crashed into a radio tower in East Houston. 4 people were on board and all were killed in the crash, including 1 child. Now, we don't know what caused the crash, and federal investigators are asking for help. So, if you saw something or found something, reach out to the authorities. So right now, the National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, is going to take the lead in the investigation with help from the Federal Aviation Administration, Houston Fire and Police Departments as well, and DPS. And we're going to keep following this story. We're going to learn more about it. And our hearts go out to the victims because this is just so sad.
It is. And honestly, it was also very sad the way that news spread. I think about this. I started seeing a lot of friends and just, sources or people that I knew in the area reposting that video that we all saw with
Yeah.
the helicopter crashing into the tower and just this, ball of fire in the air. So I think it was really shocking and heartbreaking to have people witnessing that in their area and then also kind of like process that, on a late Sunday evening. So yeah, it was heartbreaking.
Those videos, I know it's important to like show what happened, but I always feel weird sharing those. Like those are the final moments of people's lives, right? I don't like watching those at all. It just makes me feel so sad and uncomfortable.
Me neither. I honestly yeah, that it broke my heart when I saw those videos circulating, and
Mhm.
when I saw that it was like several people posting this. um I know that a lot of them were doing it for just like to share information to their friends and neighbors and family members in the area, but at the same time I'm like, oh my god, what a way to, end a weekend, and also just thinking of obviously the lives that were lost
Yeah.
and that we didn't know at the time, right? Like what the extent of it.
Yeah, and we'll keep our eyes on that one and learn more about it as more information comes out. Okay, second story. The Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission, with help from the FBI, conducted a huge sex traffic ring bust and raided 9 nightclubs and bars to save over 50 victims of sex trafficking. The raid came after a 10-year investigation, with the TABC saying that a drug cartel was behind this sex trafficking ring. Now, all 9 businesses are temporarily closed by the TABC. And while it's great to see the victims rescued, Danya, my initial question when I saw this was, why did it take 10 years? Like, what?
Yeah, honestly, yes, frustration. Speaking of frustration
Yeah.
and speaking of transparency, a lot of the times we want a little bit more transparency as to like how things came about through the years. Cause I think that was the question that I had off the top of my head too. Like 10 years, what happened during the 10 years? And how many people are probably not there after 10 years that
Yeah.
they could have also either arrested or saved, right?
So, by the way, we don't know why it took 10 years. There's really not that much information about the bust yet, but man, I wish they did a better job of messaging this, because they could have said how many other victims were rescued in that 10-year research process. Did they do other busts or stings or whatever it may be? But yeah, it took 10 years. And I understand they're always thinking about safety and people in mind, especially when you're doing things like this, like a huge bust. But man, oh, that's heartbreaking that it took this long.
Agree. And I also want to add, I understand that there's obviously a lot of information they can give us about this investigations because they might put the investigation at risk. I get it. But, as a reader, putting myself in the shoes of readers and putting myself in the shoes of just like being a community member, it is kind of shocking that something that seemed potentially obvious took that long. But yeah, I mean, at least they caught him.
Yeah, I'm glad they caught them. And if you would like to learn more about what else our city is doing to combat sex trafficking, I've linked our episode with Dr. Molly Gordon on how the city is helping victims of sex trafficking. And unfortunately, Houston is one of the worst cities in the country when it comes to sex trafficking. The Museum of Fine Arts Houston presents Living with the Gods, Arts, Beliefs, and Peoples. To celebrate its centennial, the museum has organized a once-in-a-lifetime exhibition that features extraordinary objects made by artists to communicate with their gods. Living with the Gods represents a vast array of religions and beliefs, with art created across cultures and across thousands of years. The 200 objects demonstrate the astonishing quality that artists have achieved when driven by passion and faith. Living with the Gods is on view from October 27th through January 20th, 2025. Visit mfah.org/livingwiththegods to learn more. That's mfah.org/livingwiththegods. I love a good show, and right now at Stages Houston, it's a great time to grab your crew and check out their newest production at the Getty Theater. It's a fresh take on an iconic duo, Miss Holmes and Miss Watson, Apartment 2B. It's on stage starting October 25th through November 17th. If you're a fan of Sherlock Holmes or love a good comedy, this one's for you. You can enjoy a signature cocktail or mocktail from the Getty Bar and be transported to a modern-day Baker Street. We hope you have a bloody good time at the theater. Get your tickets now, and for the best prices, groups of 6 or more save up to 30%. Head to stageshouston.com to get your tickets for Miss Holmes and Miss Watson, Apartment 2B. That's stageshouston.com. Get ready, Houston. The 2024 Houston AfroFest is happening on October 26th from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. at Houston Christian University. Expect a day packed with live music, dance performances, arts and crafts, delicious African cuisines, and an African safari-themed kids zone. This is going to be fun and educational for the entire family, and I can't wait for it. Entry is just $10 if you buy your tickets online now, and it's free for students, veterans, seniors, and kids. But prices will increase at the gate, so get your tickets early on Eventbrite. For more details or vendor registration, visit HoustonAfroFest.org or find them on social media at Houston AfroFest. That's HoustonAfriFest.org. Don't miss out on this vibrant cultural experience and invite others as well. Again, the 2024 Houston AfroFest is on October 26th. We'll see you there. Okay, our next story, Danya. Taking a cruise from Galveston has become a favorite of many Houstonians. Have you taken a cruise out of Galveston yet?
I haven't.
Uh-oh.
I am not a water peep. I am a desert creature. I am so afraid of the ocean that I don't think I'll be taking advantage of any of this.
Oh my gosh, they're so much fun. You don't even feel like you're on the water. They're so big. They're so gigantic. Like you're just in your own little city. I don't know. You got to try it once.
I might. I don't know what type of courage I might need to do that, but it'll be interesting if I ever do.
Yeah, well, you're going to have a lot of options because the third largest cruise line in the world, Norwegian Cruise, just announced that they're going to have a full-time home in the brand new Pier 16 terminal, which is slated to be completed next fall. And this is huge because Royal Caribbean already has a huge terminal on its own. Then you've got the OG terminal as well, where you've seen brands like Carnival, Princess Cruise. I've taken both of those, and Galveston is becoming a bigger home for cruises. So kudos to them.
Yeah, and that's only bound to bring, more people through the state. There's going to be more tourism. So I'm here for it. I mean, will I be there myself? I don't know, but time will tell.
So there's going to be about 2 million passengers a year going through all the terminals after this new Pier 16 terminal opens up. And port figures show the cruise industry created over 4,000 jobs and pumped over $700 million into Galveston's economy last year. That is wild. And if you've ever gone through Galveston in that harbor area on a Sunday, you'll just see the impact of the cruise industry. There's parking lots, there's shuttles coming in, there's workers. It is busy. It is so crazy how many people are involved in the cruise industry.
Yeah, and I'm glad they're paying attention to the demand, right? I think there's a lot of increasing access here. It's amazing. I think there's a lot of interest in getting more cruise lines here. So yeah, kudos.
Now, one last thing on this, there is an environmental impact, by the way, to all of these massive ships in Galveston. For example, the Environmental Protection Agency alleged that Royal Caribbean was offloading large amounts of waste from 8 different cruise vessels at a Galveston port terminal from 2017 until this year. And Royal Caribbean, by the way, has come out and said that, no, it was just a documentation error on their part. So you got to be aware of these. There is a massive city, as I said, on the water. It is going to impact the environment somehow, some way. So I just want to throw that out there because I'm always thinking about how fragile our ecosystem is, especially on the shore. So yeah, there is that one last thing to add to this story.
Yeah, and a very important thing, and I think the theme of this is transparency, right? I mean, for the sake of people's peace of mind who actually want to participate but don't know what impact they themselves are having by buying tickets and actually going on a cruise, I think it's important to actually, do their due diligence when it comes to the environmental impact and letting people know, right?
All right, Danya, it is time for Only in H-Town. And I've got a story here for you because only in H-Town can we spend a segment on CityCast Houston to talk about the Houston Rodeo's new rodeo clown. That's right. Were you ready for that one?
I was not ready for this one, but I love where it's going.
Yeah. So John Harrison was announced as the new iconic head barrel man after Leon Coffey retired after 30 years as one of the faces of the Houston Rodeo. Now, this is serious business because Harrison is coming with a huge resume, being named the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association Clown slash Barrel Man of the Year 9 times. All right. And most recently last year. So this guy is filling in some big clown shoes. All right. Pun intended, joke intended there. But he's coming with a big resume. And I think everyone has seen Leon Coffey. He's literally one of the faces of the Houston Rodeo, like on the promotional items. And you might not know his name, but yeah, this is a big deal for the Houston Rodeo.
Yeah, and for the Houston rodeo families, right? I mean, after I think it might have been heartbreaking to know that their legendary rodeo clown was, leaving, but also this is exciting to get to know, a new face.
Yeah. So my
Yeah.
question for you is, if they invited you and said, Danya, would you like to be a barrel woman in one of the competitions? Would you do it? And here's what you have to do. Here's what the barrel man does. All right. They have to entertain the crowd. And then you also have to distract bulls whenever needed. So there is that portion of like, you're going to be in that ring with the bulls.
Yeah, I don't know if I would be more afraid of the bull than the crowd. I think probably the bull. But no, I am not. No, I don't. I don't think I can hack that. I think that I'll leave that to the professionals, and they're true professionals. So
Oh my gosh, I would love to do it. It would be so exciting and thrilling. Like you're there. And I don't know if you've ever seen him or not, but when a bull is coming his way, like he's in this barrel and he just ducks right in and he just hides. It's the funniest thing ever. And the bull's like, wait, where did this guy go? I was just chasing a clown.
I hope they hear this episode so that they can call you as a special guest because that'd be so much fun to see.
Celebrity rodeo clown, sign me up. Let's do it. This is my calling.
Little did you know.
Yeah, Danya, that was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining us and can't wait to talk to you again.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure being here.
That was Danya Pérez. I've linked all of the stories in our show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with 3 friends so they can make it part of their daily routine as well. And be sure to subscribe to our daily newsletter, Hey Houston, with the info in our show notes. Thanks. That will do it for today. I'm Raheel Ramzanali. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new. It's so nuts that they're just like, you can just throw whatever the hell you want on there.